Hey everybody, today we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to kick off the first of the dual sport motorcycle, like kind of backcountry exploration content. So I believe I said in the first episode of the podcast that I was wanting to branch out and throw a lot of different stuff on the channel, but especially the dual sport motorcycle riding, like backcountry discovery type stuff, because I've gotten really into that lately, and that's just something I really want to be one of the key focuses to the channel and the show. So I'm going to kind of differentiate the two a little bit. So obviously I will be doing the podcast, be doing this, and whatever else I decide to throw in, but it's going to be under different names, if that makes sense. So obviously the podcast it'll have its episode titles, and it'll be episode 1, 2, 3, etc. But the other content, like this dual sport type stuff, is going to be kind of under a different thing. So this will be the third video that I upload, but it won't be the third episode of the podcast, if that makes sense. It's all going to be localized and uploaded under this one show. It's all a part of the show. It's just a different thing, if that makes sense. So let's just dive into it. I believe I said last episode of the podcast that I recently just got a Kawasaki KLR 650S. That's important. So before I really kind of dive into the bike that I have, I'll give a little bit of like a history on it. So the KLR 650 came out, I believe, in 87, and there's three different generations of them. There's Gen 1, which runs from 87 to 2007. Then they made some like slight changes, I believe, to kind of the body, as well as just different mechanical changes, which led into Gen 2, and that ran from 08 to 2018. And then Gen 3 ran from 2022 till the present. So the knowledge that I have of this bike, and really bikes in general, I will forewarn, is a very basic knowledge. Don't expect me to go super in depth right now, because I am learning, so I don't know all the ins and outs. I don't know word for word every bit of the history on them. But one of the things I do kind of know is the Gen 3s. One of the biggest changes that they did to the Gen 3s is they introduced fuel injection, and they introduced ABS. So my bike does not have ABS. I was wanting to get it, but in the same breath, you couldn't turn it on and off. Some dual sport bikes have a switch that you can turn ABS on and off manually. Then you have some like mine that it stays on all the time. And from what I've heard and what I've read, you don't really want that for off-road. And that's going to be the majority of where I ride mine anyways. So I decided to buy the Bullet and not go with ABS. Whether, that be a smart decision or just my own impatience. But I got the 650S. So the 650S is a new... I don't know if they came out with it right out the gate of Gen 3s, or if that is new to this year. Don't quote me, I want to say that it's new to this year that they added in the S, but regardless of what it is, the S is kind of stands for short. What they did is they took the regular 650 and they lowered the suspension on it and kind of dropped the seat by about 2 inches. And that was one thing that kind of got a lot of praise, because it obviously allowed for better ground contact for shorter riders. Myself, I'm a whopping 5'8", so that extra 2 inches really helped. I promise you, 2 inches matters. But that obviously helps out pretty decent bit. And with the suspension being lowered, one thing that people have really praised about that is it, I believe from what I've read, people are saying that it makes the bike feel more grounded and more stable. So kind of the bike itself is a little bit of a controversial bike from what I've been reading. There's a really big love-hate for the previous generations. So a cool fact to kind of throw in there about the Gen 1s. I know this is kind of down a rabbit hole, but whatever. The Gen 1s were adopted by the military, I think in like kind of the late 90s, early 2000s, and they did a diesel conversion on them, which I just thought was pretty neat. They used them, I'm pretty sure they used them overseas for, you know, whatever, but they were adopted by the military and did a diesel conversion. And like I said, I just kind of think that's neat, but I don't really know about all the ins and outs of the love-hate with the older generations. I am going to stick to the kind of love-hate that I know about for the newest gen, but I do know that the bike overall throughout its years has had kind of a love-hate. So with the newest generation, one thing that some people speak about that they don't really like that much is it's a 652cc engine, and it is single. It's not a like parallel twin or anything like that. So it has more vibration, and it also puts out, I believe, 40 or 42 horsepower and then like 39 or 40 pounds of torque. And a lot of people don't like the fact that it doesn't go as fast and isn't as zippy as a lot of these other bikes kind of in its same class or in a little bit upper class. From my own personal experience, I think that the bike is pretty zippy and fun myself. Now, by no means am I an experienced rider. I do not have near the experience that most people have on these things. But for myself personally, I have found that I kind of think the power is fine, especially for a beginner bike. So I think that this is a really, really good beginner bike, because I have like ridden dirt bikes and stuff before whenever I was younger, but I've never ridden, you know, a dual sport bike, anything like that. And it's also been years since I actually have ridden, but I've found that it is actually a pretty manageable bike as far as the power and stuff like that. It doesn't really get away from you, and it's kind of a forgiving bike. Another thing that I found that people don't really like is the weight. So it's kind of a chunky boy. It's about 452 pounds, 452, 456. And that is before you add any kind of baggage or your own body weight, anything like that to it. So it is a little bit of a chunky boy. But in my limited experience with it so far, I haven't found that really to be an issue. Like I said, I think that the bike feels really, really stable. It feels nice. It good power. I did a pickup test on it. I laid it on its side and I tried to see if I could pick it up and get it back up right if I ever, you know, dumped it and didn't have anybody around. And I was able to do the 450 pretty well. I found it to be pretty manageable. So I don't know where exactly that weight is going to come into play. It may come into play in the more kind of technical trail aspects of dual sport riding. I don't know, because I'm not well versed in it. So anybody who sees this and is, let me know. And I also am gonna do more reading, of course. But so there's that. One thing that I have also noticed that people have complained about that I do agree with is the foot pegs. What they did with the foot pegs is they added, I believe it is like a metal foot peg with a rubber kind of wrap around it, and it feels like your feet are going to slip off of it, and it kind of feels like flimsy in a way. It kind of feels like they'll bend down a little bit and kind of slip off. I do kind of agree with that. It is a little bit annoying. I plan on changing those out in the future, but it's not something that's like a, you know, deal breaker. Overall, so far, I've had a lot of fun on the bike. And kind of before I get into anything else as far as what my plans are for it, I will throw a 360 video up of it that I took earlier. I'll throw that up right now. So I just wanted to throw that up there so you could kind of get an idea of what the bike looks like, kind of an idea of the size. I know you can't really tell the size super good through a video, but kind of my plans for it right off the bat of what I'm really wanting to do. Prioritizing what I'm wanting to do is the first thing I believe I'm going to save up and get a new spring, because one thing that I've been reading about kind of plays into one of the complaints a little bit is the spring just isn't enough to deal with the extra weight of you as well as packs. If you add a bunch of like packs on it and your own body weight and load the packs down with gear, from what I've read and heard, it tends to want to kind of bog down and bottom out. So definitely want to do that before I get my packs and get everything real loaded out. That's probably number one on the list. Next is probably crash bars along with trail lights, I would say. After that, probably add my kind of side and back racks, and I want to add pannier bags on it. Either before or after those, I'm gonna add a tank bag. Well, I'll take that back. I haven't decided if I want to add a tank bag or if I want to put a bag on the metal like silver plate on the back of the bike. Haven't really decided that yet. Don't know how much it really affects anything, if it's personal preference or if it affects, you know, kind of my performance on the trail or anything like that. But add that. Will definitely change out the foot pegs. I'll do that. Get the just straight up metal durable foot pegs and don't have the kind of slippery of the rubber, because I want to feel good and confident whenever I stand up on the pegs to kind of navigate a real technical trail. And we'll probably update the handguards. And I believe right now that's probably the list. Of course, more things will get added to that as time goes on, and it will be a slower process to getting it all done. Definitely won't happen overnight, because I wish I had the money to do that, but I just don't. As far as what I really want to do on it, as I've said, I want to just kind of record everything that I do. I'll just, whether it be going on a nice peaceful ride, hitting a real technical trail, anything and everything on the bike, show all the beautiful scenery, tips and tricks, learning experiences. I'm sure plenty of dumping the bike, but of course, first to do that, I'll have to invest in like a GoPro and either a chin mount for my helmet or a chest mount. So that'll take a little bit more time too. It's not going to be overnight that all this happens, but I just kind of wanted to go ahead and kick off the content and give an outline of what I really want to do and kind of give an outline of the bike, like I said. But I believe tomorrow, so at the time of this recording, it's July 3rd, and I believe tomorrow morning on the 4th, I'm going to go out on a ride and try to get some footage. It'll be shot with a phone, forewarning, but I am going to try to get a little bit of footage out the gate, and hopefully it won't be too long before I actually get the GoPro and I'm able to get better POVs, get better quality footage and shots, stuff like that. But I believe that's really all I have for the episode today. I know it's going to be a little bit of a shorter one, but like I said, I really just wanted to go ahead and kick it off because I know that for the past 2 episodes of the podcast, I've been kind of hopping up the bike a little bit and hopping up the content. So I wanted to go ahead and put it out there, let it be known that I have it, let it be known that the content is coming. So there's that. Like I said, it'll all be localized under this one show. So an update, I have launched the Spotify for the show. It is now up and live. The link should be in my Instagram bio for the show, and I'll also leave a link in the comments of this video if anybody wants to go check that out. But all of the podcast episodes will be uploaded on Spotify. Spotify will be kind of dedicated for the podcast, and the YouTube it'll have the podcast on it, but it'll also have all of this content on it, obviously. But anybody that just wants to listen to the podcast or just wants to listen to audio and just find it easier to do it that way, Spotify is up. So go check that out and give it a follow. Whatever you got to do. Much appreciated. But there's that coming. Like I said, plan on doing a lot of riding. Plan on getting that out really, really soon. And just keep moving forward. Keep trucking along with what we're doing. And so far, thank you guys for all the support that I've already gotten. It really means a lot. But I think that's really all I got for y'all. So, see you.